got this long in German with a lot of gutturals that I don't have the voice for. $1,700 something.
So it's 100 years later, basically.
150.
150.
Actually, no, it's 100 years after Purcell's.
After Purcell's
Yeah,
opera.
this is 100 years after Purcell. It's 150 years after our time.
I think. How are you going to get people to be trained to sing like that in the 1630s?
That's why Marla is in Magdeburg and is affiliated with the Royal Academy of Music. And that's why we have an Italian...
Because she has a recording that says, I know someone can sing like this.
That's why we have an Italian castrato in Magdeburg.
I don't think he's going to sing like that.
You'd be surprised.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's still some. There are what, 2 recordings of Castrati singing?
Yeah, I've heard
They're
some of it.
incredible.
But that
I got backing up a little bit on the mass singing.
choral.
How they react to Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
Really big.
It's just more voices. It's bigger.
It's really
I mean,
big.
Yeah, but I mean
they had religious spectacles with large choirs, so that it wouldn't be totally unheard of.
In Wales, that's a
In
normal.
Wales, it's much more common.
Yeah, if you think, for instance, of those outdoor Jesuit spectacles that they put on in the summers.
The
with
Passion Play
casts-
in
casts of hundreds,
Southern Germany.
and they would pull in everybody in the
Oberammergau.
blasted city who had ever sung a
It was
note
the 10th year
and
when my
mass them
parents
as a
came,
choir
so
in the back
we
because
went up
they
and
were
let my
doing it
mother-in-law go
outside
to
and they
it.
needed
I
the
didn't
volume.
go to it.
Okay.
We couldn't afford it.
I noticed that
Whip that.
you did this comparison with the sixth, with just this is the beginning of opera. Yes, let's take a nap. To the 17th century. Okay, but why are they going to stop? Why are they going to even go to the 17th century? Why aren't they going to go to Judy Garland, Bing Crosby from this?
That was where my discussion was going.
Okay.
I mean, there is a whole, from this, I mean, I could spend hours just talking about the development of opera through Verdi and Puccini and Bellini and all of those guys. I could go
Operetta.
into Gilbert and Sullivan from there. I could go into Rodgers and Hammerstein and Rodgers and Hart and Jerome Kern
Cole
and Stephen
Porter.
Sondheim and all of those guys. Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Okay.
I mean, their opera is just opening the topic of opera opens up the whole production, the whole gamut
Yeah,
of vocal production.
I understand. My point is that, and I guarantee, I'm not at all sure that there's going to be the Verdi from the 17th century, but I guarantee you there's Bing Crosby singing White Christmas recorded a dozen times.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be able, they're going to have access to Bing and Elvis and nobody, stay off my blue suede shoes, and Boy George, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and all
Guys
these
and Dolls.
things. And they're going to
Cats.
be able to pick, well, they're going to pick all of them.
Phantom. They
in
will
various-
have a recording.
yeah.
They'll have
But
a DVD of Phantom.
It's still a radio age, so it's
And they've
the
got a
musical
videotape
programmers
of Guys
is
and
really
Dolls.
big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
they've got-
point is that
videotapes of
in
many
VLA,
Musicals.
musicals.
I collect
VOL,
musicals.
the Catholic Broadcasting Station, and in the
Seven
opera
Brides.
houses,
They would head Into the Woods.
what are the
I haven't
people
seen
going to
anything.
want to hear? What
I live in.
is
I live
Christina
in the desert.
going to want to hear? What is
I have
Gustav
wanted
gonna
to.
wanna hear?
I haven't seen Wicked because I read the book and threw it.
What are
Yeah,
the movers
I
and
don't
shakers
see.
in Magdeburg going to want to hear? And I submit that it's as likely, it seems to me, to be actually somebody who was just listening to the Oh Woe Is Me 1600 first operas is going to be a lot more comfortable with Bing than was that thing from the 17th century.
I don't know.
Maybe.
The problem is that you're
maybe,
going to see.
maybe not, because the music that Bing sang and the music that Frank Sinatra sang, very smooth, very melodic, but very, very heavy jazz underpinnings.
Oh, yeah.
Very syncopated.
And there's also the highbrow, lowbrow factor.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not saying that music will not get exposure. I did not use it in my sampler. You know, I agree. I'm probably not very balanced in terms of the lesser brow music, but there's no question that music will have it. Will, you know, in my stories, I refer to the music of Johnny Cash. I refer to the music of
We're almost
people
at 5 o'clock.
from that
Yeah.
stratum of music. You know, for the purpose of what I was doing here, I was just showing the kinds of things that people could, maybe the extremes of what people could run into.
Yeah, I get the extremes, but, and I understood that you were going from the very mellow, sort of, so mellow it was depressing, in its monotony of the early area of
Yeah.
the first opera,
Purcell.
to the very wild, very, let's see how far we can take it, of somebody like Mozart.
But the people of the time of Mozart, a lot of them didn't.
Yeah, but Mozart was rock and roll for his time.
Yeah.
Right, and so the court system that was paying him didn't appreciate what he was doing because they didn't want rock and roll; they wanted highbrow opera.
But my point is that if all of these come at it not as this is the highbrow music, this is the lowbrow music, and all of this stuff that comes out of Grantville is the same brow, so far as the downtimers are concerned. It is all uptimer music, whether it's from Johnny Cash or
Caruso. Yeah, how
or
do they tell?
Caruso.
Yeah, how do they tell the difference
To
between
them,
brows?
it's all, there's no status
You can
that
tell.
one gets
John
that the other
Williams.
doesn't.
They would understand the term hillbilly music.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well,
you know, that is sort of what that list there is
Mhm.
for. I'll interrupt David a minute and we'll go over if we need to. Laura
We've already
Russell-
gone over. It's already
Unless you
quarter to
don't want
5.
to hear a selection from Maple Steaks.
No, well, I can't because I have like,
No, he was going to read in here before your panel.
He's going to read it.
Before your
I will
panel
read it
starts.
If we get this finished.
okay. But Laura and I have been working, we had the vocal music teacher from the middle school in Grantville hired by the boarding school in Quedlinburg,
Oh,
which
she uses now?
caters to the daughters of really the lower nobility and upper middle class, the people who can afford to send their daughters to school for the best education available at the time and will do it. And Laura and I have set this up for the program that she does for the parents, the grandparents, and the local worthies of Quedlinburg after a semester of working with the children, to introduce them to uptime music. From that perspective, assuming that the audience is going to be very favorable, because after all, these are their daughters and granddaughters doing the performance.
Right.
And we're opening it with the littlest kids, the first and second graders, marching in to Tom Paxton's The Wonderful Toy. It would hop when it stopped and pop when it hopped and bang when it stood still. You know, the little girls marching along to that,
Right.
just to warm the audience up. Then as we bring in the girls, who will range in age up through mid-teens, they'll start with something familiar. What Child Is This? Set to Greensleeves, which was an available thing at the time. A couple of modern arrangements of early modern music. Clem Pastores, saying this survived to the 20th century and it was still sung. then what was then very modern, Gerhardt and Krieger's "O Lord, How Shall I Meet Thee?"
So far, it's all old. So far, it's all music from the 17th century.
From the except for Paxton, of course,
Yeah,
but they're
except for
starting with 17th century music, pointing out to these people, your music lasted to our day. It was still sung, still rearranged, still appreciated. And then they will do "O Savior, Rend the Heavens Wide," which is Spey, and "O How a Rose Ere Blooming." This will be basically their thing. Then they'll say, and using this same type of melody, we'll do "Home on the Range," "Streets of Laredo," and Marty Robbins' "El Paso." You know, moving from the simplest of Western melodies to the most complex and syncopated very shortly. Then, because of the attraction of dance music, "Once in Love with Amy." Once in love with Amy, always in love with Amy, ever and ever fascinated by her. You know, and the girls will dance to it. So they're on a stage. Parents and grandparents will be able to see that it's dance music. Then they will go on, and this is within the limits of a school program. "Go Tell It on the Mountain." "Shall We Gather at the River?" Thomas Dorsey's "Precious Lord, Take My Hand," bringing in the jazz. "This Land Is Your Land," with a wall map of the uptime USA and a pointer showing what he's talking about. And close with "Amazing Grace." 5 notes. School program. Introducing uptime music to a non-sophisticated audience, but every one of them will be able to sing and to play an instrument. That's
And
it.
it'll knock them on their feet.
Will drive them nuts. But because it's their kids, they'll say, "Oh, well, you know, they're doing it, they're enjoying it."
Careful,
Careful.
all right.
Yeah, I just tripped.
Thank you, David.
And one of the things that I said early on was that there was not going to be a systematic exposure to this.
Yeah.
Guys are gonna stumble across, you know, this guy's gonna find this guy's gonna find that, this other guy's gonna find something else. And it's gonna be very higgledy-piggledy how this stuff comes out and who finds what and where he takes it.
I can't remember his name, the guy, the farmer, that lost half his land to the town and they had to figure out.
Bernie Newhouse.
He had to sell his tractor, remember that the 8-track tape player in it, that he liked to listen to while he was plowing? It'd be interesting for somebody to play in Canada, what music he liked to listen while plowing.
Yeah.
That might be an interesting collection there. What do you
Bernie
find?
Newhouse.
One last piece.
For all I know, maybe Boy George.
I wouldn't think it.
Sometimes people like Bernie and stuff like
I love this piece.
This is later.
But I love jazz, so.
Okay,
Sophisticated.
that piece, I'm gonna end with that.